Diaries of a Madman. Written by What Must I Do? Chapter 4. Nightmare Night, Part 1. The next day found me in another small adventure, this time with the resident dragon. Navarone, Spike started. How do you get mares to notice you? Oh, God. That is a loaded question, and one that I'm not sure how to answer. I replied, we were out in the middle of the field, looking for some kind of alchemical supplies or something for Twilight. I wasn't really paying attention when she told us what to do. I knew Spike was, and she wrote it all down anyway, so I figured we would be fine. What's a loaded question? He asked. A question that, in this case, is something that I can't answer without getting in some kind of trouble. I'll do my best to answer it, but follow any of the things I tell you at your own risk. First things first. Have you tried telling her how you feel? I've made it as obvious as possible. I've done everything she's asked, even the really nasty stuff. I always show my love and adoration on my face, and it's always evident in my voice. She still doesn't seem to notice. Spike, for the most part, women are very bad at picking up stuff like that. A lot of times when a guy likes a girl, he'll do all sorts of things to impress her. She'll never notice or just thinks it's kindness. On the flip side of that, when a girl likes a guy, she does all sorts of little things to impress him. He never notices. Both sides are very different methods of showing affection and love for one another, and because of that, both sides have a hard time telling when the other likes them. Your best bet is to make her notice and just telling her straight up. Look, I never had a girlfriend. I have, however, seen way too many romantic comedies, and I can figure to look at everything they do in movies like that, and as long as I do the exact opposite, I should be fine. So, you're suggesting I just tell her how I feel? Won't that feel awkward? Yes, it will, but, and don't take this negatively, it'll also quicken the process. If you tell her straight up that you like her and she snuffs out your hopes, you know you don't need to waste any more time on her. If you've done all you said you have for her, by now she either feels the same way or she probably never will. I won't lie. I know who he's talking about, and I'm pretty sure she knows that I'm thinking she's using him because of his affection. Rarity isn't necessarily a bad person, but she is somewhat manipulative. With all her workload, though, I do kind of understand it. I figured this would be a good way to cut Spike off her leash, though. If she says she isn't interested in me, what then? What if it's some pony I need to work with often? I decided to tease him a bit about it. Don't tell me this girl is Twilight. What? No, it's I mean, this is all hypothetical. I smiled. In that case, if she says she isn't interested in you, just drop it. Feel free to help her if you want, but just know you'll probably never be able to make her feel the same way you do about her. It's a painful thought, I know, but it's the truth. Besides, how long do dragons even live? And how long until you're fully grown? I could tell I hit a bit of a soft spot, and I immediately regretted my words. Don't worry about it, man. Even if this girl isn't one for you, you'll find one someday. Besides, you haven't even asked her yet. I think I would feel too nervous to ever ask her out with me. I almost made the cardinal mistake of relationship helping. I almost offered to ask her for him. My mouth was open and the words were forming before I managed to strangle the words away. I disguised the sound with a cough. Much good it did me. Navarone, you think you could, I don't know, maybe ask her for me? Well, shit. Before I answer that, I want to tell you a few things. First, that's basically the cardinal mistake in relationship planning, and it could go one or few ways with about an equal chance of each happening. Possibility 1 is complete success. I ask her and she answers. Possibility 2 is partial success. I ask her and she refuses to answer because I'm not asking for myself. Possibility 3 is partial failure. I screw up somehow and ask her in a way that makes it seem like I'm asking her about her options towards me instead of you, and she answers that way instead. And possibility 4 is complete and total failure. Don't ask me how it happens, because I don't even want to even think about it. But it ends with you, banned from her presence forever, and me as her eternal slave. Those don't seem very likely. And this doesn't seem very hypothetical. Okay, but you have to promise not to tell any pony about it. The last pony I told blabbed it to some pony. Don't tell secrets, Spike. If I did, I would have told Rarity a long time ago that you liked her. I honestly don't know how she hasn't figured it out yet, or if she knows and is just waiting for you to make a move. Okay, the secret is... Wait, what? Did Twilight tell you too? Dude, it's incredibly obvious. I mean, I don't do relationships at all, and even I figured it out as soon as I saw you near her. But, what? I saw an interesting chance to get out of the work I wasn't planning on doing anyway. If you really want me to help you go ask her, you'll have to finish this work by yourself. On second thought, I think I'll just keep my method and hope for the best. Well, it was worth a shot. Now I read a lot, and I never really thought about time passing in books. But when I decided to write up this journal, I ended up really thinking about it. An hour working in silence, digging through the leaves is a long, long time. Odd how stuff like that doesn't end up on your perspective until you actually have to live it. After an hour, I decided a different approach. Well, maybe human women are different from bony mares. What do you mean? Maybe stuff that would work in my world wouldn't work here. I don't know. I've never thought to try it. I don't even know how interracial stuff like that would work here, nor do I really want to know. I mean, the cockatrice had to come from somewhere. You'd honestly be better asking a pony. A male pony, not a female one. A male pony that's in a stable relationship. I don't know many stallions. Twilight doesn't hang around with them, and I don't get out of the library much. The only one I know is Big Macintosh, and he's not in a relationship. I noticed that too, actually. Have you ever met Twilight's parents? If nothing else, you could ask her dad. He'd probably assume I was going to try to ask Twilight to like me, though. What people think doesn't usually matter that much. Let him think what he wants, as long as he gives you the results you need. If he doesn't want to help you, assure him that it's for one of her friends or something. I don't know. What's the worst that could happen? I get mad from Rarity's presence and Twilight Dad becomes her eternal slave? The rest of our search passes us thinking of increasingly random and off-the-wall possibilities of things that could happen if someone botched a relationship. It was pretty amusing. One ended up with a guy that exiled to another continent. One ended with him almost dead and then in love with her sister. One ended with a guy going through a complete and total hell, only to realize he never really liked her in the first place. And one ended with a girl saying yes on accident, and then being completely passive-aggressive for the rest of the relationship. I didn't see much more of Luna after that. She stopped by one more time before the festival, and that was just long enough to tell me that she was definitely going to be there. And let me tell you, that festival ended up being quite an interesting night. I was lying on a patch of moss outside Fluttershy's house when night fell. I had a bunny over my eyes, blocking out as much of the remaining light as I could. Twilight was pacing back and forth, jingling with every step. She was wearing some costume of a wizard or something that was covered in bells. Fluttershy was watching Twilight with increasing nervousness, occasionally darting her eyes to the sky. Every time a bit of wind rustled and the leaves cloud passed over, she flinched and whimpered. Fluttershy, as I'm sure you might have been able to guess, was not a fan of Halloween-esque festivals. She doesn't like scary, and if she didn't have Twilight's guarantee that Luna wouldn't hurt her, she would have been locked in her house. Night fell, and Luna didn't show up. Maybe she decided not to come. Fluttershy stuttered. I imagined she was looking at her door hopefully. My eyes were still covered by a warm bunny that was twitching slightly in its sleep. Nav said she would come, Twilight said. But I don't plan on waiting here all night. Fashionably late is one thing. Outright tardy is another. God, don't get Twilight started on being tardy. She'll be here, I calmly said. The bunny flinched. Fluttershy squeaked when she heard my voice, and that made the bunny look up, allowing me to open an eye. Nothing happening. The eye closed again, and the bunny, seeing the same thing, fell back asleep. Sorry, Fluttershy whispered. I thought you were asleep. Not a second after that, though. A loud clap of thunder sent the rabbit jumping away in terror. I opened my eyes and saw a pair of demons descending from the skies wherein dark, stormy clouds were suddenly forming. Fluttershy straight up fainted. Twilight openly gaped, and I just stared. It didn't take us long to discern that the demons were pulling a chariot, and once we realized that, we discovered the Princess of Luna was in the chariot. That is totally badass. As it turned out, the demons were actually ponies with bat wings, Luna's night guards, I later learned. They were dark gray with purple armor. The crest on their chest piece looked reptilian, and their helmet had something jutting straight up like a mohawk. And then I saw their eyes, light amber, reflecting light, with cat-like pupils. They were, as I said, completely badass looking. Twilight was still escaping when the chariot landed and Luna stepped off. I got to my feet and gently tapped Fluttershy with my foot, and she responded with a light groan. It's going to be one of those nights, isn't it? I finally got a good look at Luna too. The moon was finally full, and Luna seemed radiant in its glow. She was much taller than Twilight, and her horn was much larger. Around her neck was some manner of black necklace, with a half moon that featured the center. She seemed to be wearing some kind of light blue slippers, though that might have been strangely carved hooves. On her head was a tiara similar of color and design as the necklace. Her eyes were light turquoise, and her hair and tail seemed to float in the night sky, moving in their own volition. "Well, Princess," I said, "you surprised the hell out of me. Nice ride. It's gonna scare the shit out of the ponies, though." Princess Luna looked down at Fluttershy and then back up to me. "I will work on finding more accommodating transportation." She shifted her gaze to Twilight. "Twilight Sparkle, are you perhaps Starsword the Bearded? I hear you have some manner of plan." "I knew somebody would understand this costume." Twilight was somewhat upset that no one we ran into knew who she was dressed as. "Now, Verone, you already know all of this. Try to help Fluttershy while I explain it to the princess." I knelt down to the catatonic Fluttershy and tried shaking her. "Fluttershy, it's time to wake up." She muttered something, and I poked her in her side. "If you don't get up, I'm going to start to find out if ponies are ticklish." Nothing. As it turns out, ponies are ticklish, and Fluttershy is very susceptible to it. I had her giggling and squealing in no time. "Now, are you going to faint again?" I asked when she finally relented. "Not if it means you'll tickle me again." She suddenly looked terrified, remembering why it was she fainted in the first place. "Are the demons gone?" she asked, trying to huddle against me. "They weren't demons. They were Princess Luna's guard." She started stuttering something about Nightmare Moon. "No, not Nightmare Moon's servants. Princess Luna's servants. You have Twilight's word they won't harm you." She didn't seem very placated. I sighed and added, "Would it help if I offered to protect you or something?" She nodded weakly, and I rolled my eyes. "Fine. I won't let Princess Luna hurt you." I stood and offered her a hand. She gave me her hoof and helped her up. As soon as she saw Luna, she held onto my hand as tightly as she could, despite not having fingers. I pried her hoof off my hand, and she immediately huddled up against me. I sighed again, putting an arm around the cowardly mare. "Princess Luna," Twilight said, "this is Fluttershy." Princess Luna held out a hoof, and Fluttershy jerked back, and Luna got an unpleasant look in her face. After a reassuring squeeze from me and a small look shared by Twilight, Fluttershy shook hooves with her. Progress. "I have heard much about you, Fluttershy," Luna said quietly. "Would you care to show me some of your nocturnal animals?" That perked Fluttershy right up. Any chance to talk about her animals drove most fear away from her, and she fled from my arm and took the princess in hand, or hoof, I suppose, and they walked around Fluttershy's menagerie of critters, talking about some of them. Twilight and I shared a look. "Long night?" I asked. "Yeah." She shared a sigh. "But if she got Fluttershy on her side, the rest should be fairly easy. Ponies back in Ponyville know what kind of pony Fluttershy is. It should all go well enough when they see her next to Princess Luna." No plan would ever go well has run into Pinkie and survived. She's a magnet for trouble and has no real manner of impulse control, not unlike a Furby. The four of us were walking back into town when we ran into Pinkie Pie and a large group of kids. Fluttershy was still talking her ears off about some manner of animal or something. I try not to pay attention when she starts going on about them. Now mind, Pinkie Pie knew the princess was supposed to come by tonight. She knew that, and she knew that we were trying to do with her. So, of course, as soon as she saw us, she screamed something about Nightmare Moon and bolted. The children ran with her. Damn it, Pinkie Pie. I was rubbing my temple. Fluttershy looked flustered, and Princess Luna was looking depressed, and Twilight was looking confused. Twilight finally said, "I don't understand. She was..." She sighed. "Pinkie Pie..." Nav, can you go figure out what she's doing? It was an odd one out of the group anyway, or rather one of the two odd ones. It made the most sense to send me. The thing is, I had no idea where they may have gone. I quickly pushed my way through the crowd of curious ponies that had formed around us, trying to get away before many of them could show up. But they began saying something or another to the assembled masses, and I jogged onward, trying to find the horrid pink menace and her crowd of minions. I bumped into Spike and Applejack not long after I got out of the crowd. Spike was dressed as a dragon. Well, why not? Applejack was dressed as a scarecrow or something. Me? I wasn't dressed as anything yet. My outfit was at Treeberry, waiting for me to put it on. After all, why get it dirty by lying on the ground with me on it? Spike pointed off in the right direction, and I made a point of reminder to the two of them that the Luna isn't supposed to be scary. It didn't take me too much longer to find Pinkie and the group of kids with her. I'd almost come up to them with a massive bolt of fucking lightning shot down and hit the ground between us. They ran off squealing again, and I stood my ground, trying to blink the afterimage from my eyes. Lightning isn't something you just see and dismiss, after all. I was partially blinded for a few minutes, and the full afterimage didn't depart my eyes for a few days. After the thunderclap stopped echoing in my ears, I heard a very Rainbow Dash-esque laugh and was barely able to make a dark figure zooming off into the night with a rainbow tail following it. Instead of doing the smart thing and chasing her down to admonish her for almost frying my ass with lightning, I continued my search. I figured if I followed some leads on who was giving out the most candy, I could find Pinkie's groups pretty easily. So I started paying attention to conversations. It took me a few minutes to sort through unimportant conversations to pick up the piercing shrills of children. Cheerly. I had heard that name before. It was the name of a teacher or something, but I had no idea where she lived, so it was back to wandering for me. Thankfully, Pinkie Pie is always incredibly noticeable wherever she goes. It didn't take me long to find her again. Nothing impeded my access to her, so I pushed through the gaggle of kids surrounding her, and I found myself face to face with a chicken. After taking a second to actually look over it, I realized it was Pinkie Pie in a chicken costume. Yep, that's Pinkie Pie for you. She broke into a smile when she saw me, though.
Navarone, I thought you would be with Twilight and the Princess. What are you doing away from them? Or are they hiding nearby, waiting to eat one of us?
The kids looked alarmed and I began to fruitlessly searching the shadows. I thought we had been over this, I said, crossing my arms. Luna is here to make friends, and your fear-mongering and running away with a gaggle of children's not helping.
But sometimes being scared is fun.
Not for the person that you're scared of. Seeing how you run away screaming cut Luna pretty deeply. She regrets what she became. How is she gonna make friends if every time she tries, ponies flee? She humphed, but thought about it for a few seconds.
Fine.
She nodded and turned to go.
Wait, where are you going?
I turned my back to her and said, to get dressed, of course. I left my costume in the library until the party truly started. Now that the Princess of Night is here, I think it's time for things to get really started.
Oh? What are you dressing up as?
She asked, wonderment in her eyes. Oh, you'll see, I said, my smile turning dark. You'll see. I added an even darker undertone to what I said. Rainbow Dash kicked off a bolt of lightning somewhere near us. Thunder roared and light flashed around us, bouncing brightly off my smile. Pinkie and all the kids flinched at the lightning, looking toward where it touched down. By the time they turned back to me, I was gone. I had to run pretty damn fast to get away like that, too. By the time I got to the library, I was panting and making resolutions that I wouldn't keep to exercise more. It was worth the sprint when I got up to the room that Twilight grew out of her tree for me. Lying on the bed was the costume I spent so much time making. Well, Rarity made a cloak and the robes, but I spent literally minutes on the headpiece. It was a bleached skull of some kind of crazy-ass critter I found in the Everfree, just lying on the path of Zekora's house. The thing had horns like a ram, but the teeth of a saber-toothed cat. I'm glad I didn't run into it when it was alive. Or, worse, whatever killed it. Hunting was a hobby in my spare time back on Earth, so I picked up a few friends that knew taxidermy. I didn't learn much from them, but one of the things I learned was how to bleach bones. I put those skills to use on this skull, thinking it would be a cool ornament. Then I decided to make a badass costume piece instead. So on went the black robes, the cloak, and the gloves. After a moment of pointlessly making sure my hair was down flat, I slowly put the skull over my head, making sure not to hit myself with the fangs or any of the jagged pieces where the parts of it broke. As a finishing touch, I picked up the tall scythe that Applejack let me borrow from her farm. Why the ponies had a tool that took 2 hands to use, I don't know. As I walked down the stairs in what was hoping to be a good costume with which to scare ponies, I couldn't help but lament the fact that I still didn't have new shoes for the cold winter. Imposing on Rarity risked honing her a favor, and owing her had never ended well for me. One of these days. Right when I got to the door, there came a knocking, and I recognized a trick-or-treater. Seeing this as my chance to begin the reign of terror early, I pulled up my hood and readied my scythe as I slowly pulled open the door. There we go. I'm trying to get back into it. Forgive me if my voices are a little off. I'm dusting off the shelf, proverbially, as it were, with my female voices. And also, I am like, I don't know, slightly sick? Something's congesting my throat, no clue. But I really want to get back into uploading, so hey, one step into it, right? That aside, however, I would like to thank my wonderful donators. Thank you, my Tier 1 Patreon, Squall, Windfeather, Rainflicker, Starlight Blaze, Dreamless Portal, Thine Tiny Equine, and Stewhacks. My Tier 2 Patreons, Chase Lemaster, Sword Brethren Mordred, Solus, RD Bryant, Captain Blue Shadow, HKH4 aka Texture, and the Animated Ghost. And of course the requester of this series and top donator, Silent Titan. I appreciate you guys so much and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, I hope you guys have enjoyed. This has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.